Oh, hello, everyone. Hi. Happy Saturday. Let's get set up here. Welcome back. I missed you all, even though you saw me last week. I haven't recorded in over a month because the last time I did 4 episodes. And today I'm really excited to share with you my love letter to nursing, which is now available. It's called The State of Nursing Education, Pathways, Purpose, and the Future of Cosmetic and Dermatology Practice. It's a white paper. If you're not familiar with that, that's a different type. It's just, you're familiar with articles in a journal. White papers can be published by organizations or companies to give their positioning, shed light on some data analysis, highlight trends, talk about problems, and offer strategies and solutions. So today we'll break down that white paper we're going to find in there. I wrote it for physicians who want greater clarification on our education and training based on their own curiosity or to assist with hiring, collaboration, or even partnerships with nurses and nurse practitioners. I wrote it for you, my nursing friends, who are curious about all the options available to you at and beyond the bedside. And for that mom who came on Facebook asking for her daughter who's in high school, who's showing an interest in aesthetics and wants to know the first steps to take, decided to give her a roadmap. And then this is my love letter to acknowledge all of your hard work and commitment and expertise when it comes to human behavior and emotions. Because so much of our education, our training, our conversations are always about the patient. And in this paper, I want to bring attention to the fact that nurses are patients too. And we require and deserve that same compassion, love, grace, and compensation that we see that's so prevalent in other areas and other industries. And I think it's time that we have the same thing. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Dr. Kimberly Madison, a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner and the founder of Mahogany Dermatology, Nursing Education and Research, where we're committed to increasing access to education, dermatology, nursing education, with a specific interest in skin of color, business acumen, and digital fluency. There's so much to learn in business and in dermatology, and that just happens to be our particular focus, but there's so many gaps that still need to be filled. And so when you're looking to start a business or a practice or position yourself as a key opinion, key authority in dermatology, you can pick there's so many lanes to choose from. And I encourage you to pick a gap instead of just repeating what's already been done. So we'll get into that more. But like I said, this is Batch Content Day. I just went live on all my other YouTube channel, on my other social media platforms, inviting people to join us. Batch Content Day is when a content creator takes blocks out time either for that week or that month, or once a month or whatever, to create a bunch of content, whether that's video, audio, articles, newsletters, whatever, right? So the question is always, how do you stay so consistent, right? And how do you not get burnt out? Because social media burnout is a real thing. It takes a lot of time. Sometimes putting ideas together, even if you have Chat GPT and it gives you ideas, it's still packaging it up so that you can deliver something in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever, a long form content video like this, an article, newsletters, because and I'm going to do a video coming up soon on what I've learned in the last 2 years of being on social media. One of the things that it's like, oh, it's so easy to get on camera or on video, especially if you already make videos for your personal life. And for some of you, that is actually the challenge, coming on camera and having your face be shown. But really, in the grand scheme of things, this is the easiest part, right? Taking out this block of time doing this. But let's say you spend an hour doing this, you've invested 1 hour. But the real work is actually after you create the content, because now that you've created it, just like when you create your business, you want people to know it exists. And that's where marketing comes in. And that is actually the real labor. And that's where the money is. And so when you're giving advice to your children on areas for career, honestly, if I had children, I would encourage them, expose them to professionals and the industry when it comes to marketing, real estate, and finance, because you can niche, right? Because I know people look at medicine as a stable and a secure field, but they can niche, right? They can be a financial expert for healthcare industry. They can be a marketing expert for healthcare professionals. You can be beyond real estate, like agents selling homes. I really love commercial properties. And when you think about it, we have place where we get education, where we get training, where we attend conference, where we take care of patients, people opening up practices all the time. So I think there's a huge market when it comes to real estate and healthcare. So that's where I would guide people. And like I said, in this white paper, we do talk to people in high school. So in nursing and in aesthetics, right? People, as you'll see in the paper, all of our paths in nursing are so varied, but a lot of people will start even in high school and work their way up. They know that when they start in high school that they're gonna, even someone I talked to yesterday, she wants to start as an MA and work her way up. Many people that we've interviewed on the Melanin Initiative podcast tell the same story. And there's a lot of benefits to that. We've talked about that on this channel, and we'll get into that some more today. But yeah, welcome. I'm excited to be here. Like I said, it's been over a month since I've come on camera for the YouTube channel, and it's great in terms of work-life balance. I've even slimmed down the days of the month that I take consults and that I record for the podcast. And it has helped me have more time with my family, which has been a huge priority. And so it's my recommendation to you. And I'll continue to share as I continue to learn how I organize my time, what tools I use to do that. I don't keep everything in my head, right? That is the fastest way to forget things and to lose track of it. So first thing we do when we first come on, we do some quality control check. I'm making sure that I can be seen and heard. I see my microphone is on. So I check mobile, I'm checking here, I can already see myself on the TV, and you're here. And so what we do, and we have our topic. So today we're going to talk all about this new white paper and nursing education in general. And then at the end, we have a continuing conversation. I've been on YouTube over a year now, and it started off me telling my journey, and then it turned into me answering your questions, and now it's all about helping you solve problems. And so this paper is part of that. And then at the end, we'll do a little wrap up on kind of how you can connect with me, what we have going on in the community, and things like that. So we'll start off. First of all, I see you. So when I see people, I want to know that you're here. Say hi in the comments. Don't be shy, right? And I noticed, when you watch someone for a while, everyone has their isms, I guess you can call them. I say right a lot. So I'm going to try to be more conscious of that. So we always start off with our prayer and our scripture. So part of what I used to do in the very beginning of coming on this channel, and when you're new to like content, you really don't always know where to start. So a lot of times you do just kind of start with what you see other people doing. There's nothing wrong with that. And one of the things that I'll talk about in the upcoming video, when I kind of talk about what I've learned in the last 2 years, is that a lot of us already know what we want to kind of do in general. And people have told us social media is important. So we're here and we're telling our story. And so you might start off doing what you see other people doing, right? Talking about maybe skincare or fashion or beauty, even though at the end you're really trying to build a business. And so what I've learned in the time is that when you are ready to kind of really launch that business, you end up having to pivot your whole messaging because you spent all that other time kind of doing other things. So for instance, my business was never about, well, I won't say it was never about, but right now my target audience has changed from when I first started. And so I've had to pivot. And when I give advice now, it's like people who I talk to now, they kind of already know what they want to do. And so I always recommend just start there, right? And a lot of, that's where imposter syndrome typically comes in. They don't think they can talk about those things yet because they're still in the building phase. But anyway, I'm just going to say that if you start off doing one thing, you're going to have to pivot later. And pivoting is a big thing because now your audience has gotten used to you doing one thing. And then do you keep that audience and just have a separate channel, something else to manage? How do you turn them into, how do you kind of now shift them into that direction? And people talk about it all the time in pivoting. I'm coming to the end of my business sales coaching program that I've been in all year with Jasmine Starr. And she's been pivoting halfway through the program. She started pivoting. Well, actually, I would probably say she started pivoting at the top of the year or even the end of last year. And so it's been really helpful for me to see that and to have that kind of role model. And it helped me kind of do my own pivot, which started around March. But so that's my advice right now. If you already know what you want to do, just start talking about that. Even just talking about the fact that that's the journey you're on. So even if you don't feel like you're the expert now, or you don't have enough validation or hours or credits or certifications, that's okay. in retrospect, I think it would have been, if you know what you want to do, because it can change. Anyway, that's my advice. I don't want to go on a tangent. So let's get into our prayer and then we'll get into our scripture. And the reason we do that is because when I first came on here, I used to always talk about the importance of taking care of yourself if you're in the business of taking care of other people. So whether you're a clinician and that's what you do, or you want to be in business, the burnout it's real, right? All of us know that. And it's just important to make time for yourself on your calendar, every day, even if it's just a little bit of time. And so that's your physical health, your mental health, financial health, and spirituality. And so for me, I share part of that with you. And so we start off with scripture and prayer. Okay, God, when I think about you, I am filled with awe and wonder. You are so much greater than me, and yet you long to know me. With a breath, you created people and you care deeply about my life. So, with all that I am, I will praise you because you are my creator and savior, and there is no one like you. You alone are worthy of my praise and adoration. In Jesus' name, amen. And our scripture comes from Joshua chapter 1, verse 9. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. You are never alone, and there is nothing too big for God to handle, including your problems, right? Okay, let's jump into our topic. We're going to try to get you out of here in about 20 minutes or so. And so, if those of you who just popped in, we're going to be talking today about the new white paper that I just published and released on the state of nursing education, with a specific focus on those of us interested in cosmetic and dermatology. So there's lots of papers written about nursing practice and nursing education. Actually, the timing is really impeccable because tomorrow on the Melanin Initiative podcast, um, I'll be sitting down with the guest star of our series, Demetrius Kirk. The series is Becoming Doctor of Nursing Practice. We have a couple series just to help guide aspiring clinicians on where to start. So many people want to know, where do I start? And so we have students who come on and share their journey as they're going through it, so you can get live insight. And so tomorrow, really, I didn't really plan it that way because we recorded his episode about 6 months ago. And 6 months ago, I didn't even know I would be writing this paper. But here we are. And so tomorrow, I'll be sitting down with him talking about a paper that was released on the state of doctor nursing practice education. And there's lots, and these papers are published quite frequently, sometimes every year, sometimes every 5 years, on just like where we are, next steps, things like that. And so there's none when it comes to dermatology, as you might be aware. If you're looking for resources, dermatology can be a little bit hard on finding resources. And then when you do find them, knowing which one is going to give you the most return on your investment. So really happy about this paper. And so, like I said, one of the reasons that it's written was to address that question for doctors who are always asking. And what I learned in my own journey is that, once I pick so I think all of us know those different paths exist, being a physician, PA, and P. And you do a little bit of research, right? And then once you pick your lane, you're kind of tunnel visioned, right? Because just think about if you're on a track racing other people, you have to stay in your lane. Those people are there. You can see what they're doing. I mean, you're all running, right? You're all running towards a race, running the race towards the same goal. But the person who's in the far out lane has a different experience than the person who's on the inside lane, right? And so there we go. I said right. And what I learned in retrospect in my own clinical practice as an experience is I really didn't fully know what everyone else was going through, the steps that it took to get there. And so the top of the paper, we talk about, so if you're new to papers in general, a lot of you who contact me are interested in writing. So let's break that down a little bit. So when you first have a large paper, just like when you put together your business plan might be a page or two or three or four or five. And so at the beginning of that, you might do an executive summary, just like in this white paper. And this paper is quite lengthy. And so in the beginning, kind of like a peer review article, you'll have like in the peer review article, how we have our abstract, and it gives you kind of like what the paper is about, the problem, the significance, and why the paper is being written, the methods on which they go to answer the question to address that problem, what they found out, the results, and then their conclusion and what they did about it or recommend should be done. So just like in this paper, it talks about, you have an executive summary so you can get a glimpse of what's inside and let you know what you're going to find out. At the top of the paper, I break down the different components of our educational paths. I talk about the physician, the PA, and then we get into nursing, and that is the rest of the paper. I do have some people who contact me who are trying to decide should they go all the way to med school and be a dermatologist or NP. I have heard from some PAs, but usually people who contact me are deciding between physician and nurse practitioner. And so we go over that. And I learned so much even in writing this paper. We already know it takes about 12 years to become a dermatologist, 4 years in med school, 4 years undergrad, 4 years med school, 3 years residency, give or take gap years, give or take fellowships, internships, you name it. It could be a little bit, it could be, change and vary, but that's a typical path. We talk about what they do for their continuing education, how much money they spend on school, where they get those funds from, and then, of course, how much they make moving forward. When it comes to PAs, we talk about what the requirements are in terms of the hours and the organizing bodies that provide regulation and oversight and practice, with emphasis on not just the PA, but also some of those big voices when it comes to dermatology specifically. And then some of the reports that have come out in previous years on compensation and satisfaction, that's in there. And then I have a nice little table showing you the breakdown. And then we get into nursing, right? And so with nursing, like I stated, that lady who came on Facebook asking for her daughter, asking advice, I was in the middle of writing this when I saw her question. And I thought, that's great. It was really great inspiration. So I just started back in high school. In high school, we have some people who might go to like a trade school or community college and start taking credits. And they might even be able to get a certification as like a patient care tech or certified nursing assistant. Some people go to MA. And so those are typically programs that are, give or take 12 to 18 months, pretty quick. And a lot of high school students, sometimes they don't have half a day even. Shout out to April. She just graduated and she's on her way to college. And it's been such a big year to all of you. You have children, prom, graduation, those kids who are going to be now the only child in the home. I was the oldest child, so I don't know what is. Well, I mean, of course I was the first child in the home. I don't remember that, but I know that when that oldest child leaves and you just have that one child left, that's a very unique transition. I don't think we always talk about enough. But I know it shifts the dynamics of the relationship and it puts a lot of responsibility on that child that's left. And yeah, I really can't speak to that because I left and technically I never went, I still haven't gone, right? My brother is the primary child that oversees our parents. And so that's another topic for another day, but very grateful to him. Shout out to him and happy Father's Day. Before I forget, at the time that I'm filming this, tomorrow is Father's Day. So I just want to shout out everyone who's celebrating that and whose father's still alive, where you can celebrate with them in person and in real time. So that's one way you can get started. Another way you can get started in high school is shadowing. So depending on the setting that you go, they might have requirements in terms of the age. When I was desperate to get into the hospital, which I laugh at now, how desperate I was to get out, to get in, and how desperate I was to get out. I wasn't really desperate to get out the hospital actually, but it was just time to move on. So the first job I got was a freshman in high school. My mom found that job, and I was a feeder at a nursing home. Doesn't require certification, so technically I couldn't touch patients. I couldn't really help them do anything, even help them from like the bathroom to the bed. Although I did, because there was a lady who was blind, and she would call for help to go to the bathroom, and the staff wouldn't help her and in time, and so she would just go. And so to prevent her from falling, I just would help her. But technically, you're not supposed to help patients do anything, but I could feed them. So I was a feeder. And then I'm trying to think, I think I might have helped do little things like clean up and stuff. But it was a great job because, feeding just 3 times a day. And so I would just go during those feeding times. And then I still had school and, still was in high school. So I was a freshman. I did that for 2 years before I got my license. And then I took off and worked at the PX. And then the next time I was in the hospital setting, I volunteered at Mass General in Boston. And so what I did there is I went through the volunteer office, and they will be able to give you what options are available. You end up signing a paper. Yeah, Boston. Yeah, Boston was first. So yeah, I did that, and I was a patient escort, and did that for like a whole semester. Ended up using that as a experience to help me get a job at Children's Hospital Boston, where I was a graduate research assistant. Did that for another year and a half before I went off to nursing school. And this was after I already had a degree. And then, uh, yeah, so but then before, so when I was getting my first degree in biology, I was trying to be a dentist. And so that my first kind of, I guess, clinical exposure was the nursing home, but then when I was trying to do dentistry, that was undergrad in college, and I just cold called everyone, and I became really good at knowing who to ask for and what to say, and then I just found a dentist who was kind enough to say I can do as many hours as I wanted, and so he worked on Quantico. He was in the Army, and yeah, I just went and did over 200 hours with between him and some other dentists in DC who ended up becoming my orthodontist. Um, and so that's why when it came to getting a preceptor, I kind of didn't really struggle that much because I already knew what to do. So yeah, shadowing, and then I ended up shadowing an anesthesiologist at church. So looking at your community, just asking people for help. Those are some really great ways to kind of just get exposure so they can see if it's what they like. And then if they can help around, that's really helpful. So for my entrepreneur friends, that's my recommendation is to say yes to those opportunities. And when people are asking for mentorship, active mentorship, don't just sit with a cold cup of coffee, have them come in. One of my doctors, she has a student from high school, he does vitals. But think about the little things they can do. I mean, that's for practice. I don't know how many, she doesn't really need permission from anyone. But little things like that, helping around, doing the front desk, especially when they're in that stage, which I think nursing school does us a disservice, is we only do that one thing. You don't really get to see how the whole operation runs. And it's really nice, especially if you do have aspirations to have your own practice. You want to be able to spend a day with everyone, even if you're, and actually, even if you don't. When I mentor students who are going to go through clinical rotations, and if I'm putting together a little guide for them, I'll say ask to spend 4 hours or 8 hours with the front desk, with the office manager, with other people who help make things run, even if you're not going to be the business owner, just so you have a better idea of the team and how everybody's role influences the whole outcome. I really benefited from that as a nurse at the bedside when I would have to rotate day and night, and I got to see the whole 24-hour operation. I had a better understanding of my contributions, particularly as a night nurse, and how I could better support the day team. But also, when you encounter problems, it helps you identify where those problems are, which is something you can do. It's called a workflow or fishbone, or even like your customer journey. And you just talk about the steps that take place for something to be done, which is kind of like prompt engineering with AI. And once you identify where the steps are, then you can get clarity on where the problems might be happening and where you can focus your attention on trying to correct those problems. So yeah, so we walk you through that. And that's so for that mom, that's the first thing I would do if I had a daughter, is I would go to my community and ask her to get a shadow day. If it's something she really loves, then she'd start taking some classes, get a skill, and then now you can get hands-on and you can make some money and use some of that money to start building your investment portfolio, right? That's really that. Then you're gonna go off to college, and so in nursing, we have our CNAs, then you can do LVN, LPN, AD, associate's degree, which is an RN. And with the shift in the way that nursing has gone, uh, really being encouraged to get your bachelor's. But with the mandate for the DNP, a lot of those programs are being phased out. And if you want to work, depending on the setting you want to work, they might require the bachelor's. So you're seeing that depending on where you work in the country and where you work in the setting. So a lot of schools are phasing out the bachelor's, and they're having these direct entry master's programs. So that means that the first program that you're in is a master's, and when you get out, you're going to have a master's. You're going to have the master's degree. You're not going to have the master's experience. In the past, people had their registered nurse or bachelor's, and they continue to work through that. And so they work 2 years, they get experience, they're working through the program, which might be another year or two. So by the time they got that master's, they might have had 4, 5, 6 more years under their belt. But now with people just going to school and then coming right out 2 or 3 years later, the experience is a lot lower. So in this book, I do talk a lot about a lot of the criticism we get about the lack of standardization, how the hours for requirements are kind of not consistent. And I think that hurts us a lot, right? Because even if someone has 20 years of experience and then they decide to go back and become a nurse practitioner, but we still have a base requirement for hours, then they just have even more of that expertise to come away from. But at least we can say every nurse practitioner who's practicing right now has at least X amount of clinical training hours, right? I think that would help. Now, how did we get there? Everyone's going to answer that question differently. You'll see it tomorrow. Me and Demetrius answer it differently. But I think, look, we have a problem. We have a problem where we have a lot of patients who are very sick and they need help. We know there's a shortage when it comes to primary care providers. That's primarily why the NP and PA were created. We talk about that in the white paper. And you have a growing demand of people who are older. Older adults tend to have more chronic diseases that require more medications, more visits, more time, more cost of care, not only for our country, but their out-of-pocket costs. Oh, I wrote a paper on that. I need to pull that up actually and share that. And so we need more people, right? We know about the nursing shortage. Even when I first got into nursing at Children's Hospital, the pediatrician I worked for, he said there's always been a nursing shortage. There will likely always be a nursing shortage, even though there's over 5 million of us. And so I think nursing's way of answering the call to that problem is to have these varied options to get into practice so that we can get more people on the ground that can help right away. And I would love to hear from my physician colleagues because I don't see, outside of creating the PA and NP to help fill that primary care need, I don't see where the other, so let me say, so physical therapists and pharmacists have also try to answer the call to have more educated clinicians present to meet the growing need for patients. But outside of that, I don't see anyone else changing anything to address that problem that we need more care, we need more healthcare professionals taking care of people. I feel like nursing's doing that the most. And so you have uh, you have your baseline and they said, look, we have a problem. Okay, well, these people are already working. They already have families. They already have children. So how can we help them get more education, but also accommodate their current schedule? Well, nursing, look, you have part-time programs, distance programs, on-demand programs, weekend programs, accelerated accelerated programs. You have these programs where you can start at all these different levels, and now you're on the ground working. And you can do a lot of similar things. You can help pass these kind of meds, or you can pass these kind of meds. You can work in this setting, at home health, mobile care, long-term, nursing home, rehab, acute care, outpatient, and telehealth, right? And so we see nursing answering that call. And so when we get the criticisms about why is it all kind of that lack of consistency and standardization, that's my answer. I would love to hear yours. So that's the undergraduate level. At the master's level, I talk about what you can expect in your clinical rotation, some of the problems you might encounter, and how to prepare for that. And then, of course, the doctorate, we get into the NP and DNP and what you can do. And so break down all the different certification programs, the different doctoral tracks, and what that will look like in your day-to-day life, right? Because that's what people want to know. How much time is it going to take? How much time do I need to study? Those kind of things. And then your clinical rotation, what that should look like, what you should get out of it. And then I spent quite a bit of time talking about the collaborating physicians because I've heard from so many people in practice. And recently on this channel, we talked about this case here in Texas with the lady who died after getting an IV infusion at a med spa. And so they had a medical director on staff, but they hadn't signed the papers and they weren't on site at the time of the incident. And so that led to this case, which would pass at the House and is now at the Senate. Hopefully I got that correct. And so yeah, it speaks a lot to this, but also for practicing clinicians in dermatology, practicing NPs and PAs have had some issues when it comes to billing and people going behind them and changing the billing. And so I don't want you to be shocked by that when you encounter it in practice. I want you to be prepared. And not only that, also be prepared for that interview. Some of you are, getting calls for interviews and then might take in that interview the next 24 hours or 48 hours, but you've been practicing for 10 years. You haven't interviewed in over 10 years. or you're new to dermatology, this is your first interview and you want to prepare for that. And so or it might be a new time for you to have a contract. Maybe you've never had a contract before. And so in here, I recommend having a lawyer that's readily available so that when you get that contract, sometimes you're only being given a day or two to review it and then get it back to them. So of course you can always ask for a longer extension, but a lot of people are, a lot of employees feel that they don't have that power. When it comes to negotiating, sometimes people feel more desperate and you kind of just take whatever you want, particularly when it comes to dermatology and something that's hard to get into. I know a lot of you are just taking what you can get. And when it comes to negotiation, you don't want to rock the boat. But you know what I've told you before, as an employer, employees have a lot of power, a lot of power. Even to get to the point where someone's even giving you a contract, a lot of time has already gone in because as entrepreneurs, time and capital are limited. And so even if I spend a week going through your interview, going through your application, talking to you, all that, like that's a lot of time. And to have to start over, even if it's a week, 30 days, whatever the process is for going through new hires and candidates, that's a lot of time that I could lose if I have to start from scratch. So I'm so much more willing to work with who's in front of me and what we have than to start from over. Just like dating, right? But employees, I feel like as an employee, you don't recognize that, and so in a lot of times you make decisions out of haste and fear, as opposed to confidence. So what I want you to know is that you might have a limited time to look over that contract, but you can still ask for more time. But in the event that you don't feel comfortable asking or they don't want to give it to you, at least have the lawyer on board so they can look over the contract and you can feel comfortable about, what your request should be in response to that contract, and then go from there. But at least have someone on board because it might take you 2 days to hear back from someone. And then their time is up. You won't have anyone to review the contract with you. So I just want you to be prepared in advance. If this is offering any clarity for any of you, remember to hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, let me know. These videos and everything that I'm building is based on your feedback, your response, and the problems that you're having, including the upcoming master class, which I haven't had a chance to talk to you much about, called the 5-part playbook for cosmetic and peace, so you can make money in any economy. And this is whether you're new, scaling, or seasoned, right? This information is very helpful no matter what phase of the journey that you're in. And I will have a link for you at the time that you're watching this. The link's not available, and it won't be available tomorrow when it goes live. If you've joined Batch Content Day, the benefit is you can come live. Everyone else has to wait till the episodes are published. But at some point, I'll update the link so that you can come and register for that masterclass. And we're just going to talk about how you can make money, avoid burnout, make space for time freedom, right? That's why we're doing this. That's why we're being entrepreneurs. So we can have more time to do the things we want with the people that we love when we want to do it. And so that we can build businesses that support the life that we already have, not the other way around, that we're not left drained, and that we can also walk away, whether that's for a vacation, PTO, to have a family, or to move into a new season in life, okay? And to feel that the time that we've spent has been worth it. So, of course, the paper has to talk about entrepreneurship. I would love to see another state of nursing education or practice that's out right now talking about entrepreneurship in dermatology specifically. And so we do get into that and how you can prepare yourself for that and the different pathways you can go into. I'm going to talk to you more about other ways to make money than just seeing patients. So that alone is worth the download. I took some time to look at what's happening at the micro level in healthcare, particularly in what hospitals are doing in this economy, and how they're addressing productivity and staffing and resources, right? We can learn a lot from them, but you can teach them so much too, right? Because we know the bigger something gets, the longer it takes to change, right? Because you have so many more people that have to go through so much more red tape. But when you have your own practice and you decide you want to do something, like one of you who I talked to yesterday, she came up with a wonderful name for a special she can offer her clients. She can do that right now. She doesn't have to get anybody's permission. And so the ability for you to be able to move quickly and nimbly and you can give them just as much information. Some of you have been in practice 3, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, maybe just 1 year, but you're very well versed in problem solving or automation or informatics or finance, whatever it is. You can shed light onto and help those macro facilities, which sometimes they have so many voices in the room, it's hard to really get clarity. And you can come in, you can offer your services as a consultant. You can be on retainer, you can attend a conference, be a speaker for them, and share on how you're addressing the same problems, because we're in the same economy, we're treating the same patients, and we have the same issues when it comes to trying to scale, make a profit, manage our finances, get the right staff, keep the right staff. We have the same problems, but we're not always at the same table. And so I talk about what they're doing, what we can learn from them, but also how you can be contributors to that. Because remember, you have so much expertise that goes beyond what you do with your patients. Of course, we wouldn't even exist if mentorship wasn't an issue. That is really the number one thing that everybody's looking for, because your first question is never your last question. And entrepreneurship is lonely, and being in community has been the fastest way for me to reach success. What I've been able to do since being in this program and even in nursing was really my first sense of community. Um, Being able to move so quickly, efficiently, and confidently, because imposter syndrome is a huge thing. But when you're in community, you can get feedback, you can get accountability, and you can get resources. Look, I've already done it. I'm putting it together. It took me 6 years to do this. Jasmine told us she spent $30,000 on some of these resources and entrepreneurs and masterminds and think tanks and courses. $30,000 on that was just one course on how to write sales copy, and she just broke it down to us and gave it to us on a platter. It's what you do with your children. It's what we do with staff when we onboard them. I've learned this over the last X amount of years or months, and I'm packaging it for you. That's what you can get out of community. And so we address the mentorship gap. And at the heart of this, like I said, this is my love letter to you all. At the heart of this, so much of the focus is always on our patients, right? Most of this paper is all about patient care, how we go to school, how we get our training so that we can take care of the patient. And I spend a nice amount of time talking about our relationship with patients, because it's so unique. It's unlike any other profession in the industry. We spend the most time with patients that are professionals, right? Their family, their caregivers, huge, huge contributors to the care of patients. They are by far the most important person on the team next to the patient. But when we look at our other professionals in healthcare, there is no one who spends nearly as much time with patients, who's better understanding of human behavior and emotions than nurses. You know how well that translates across industries? That is probably our most transferable skill. Don't sleep on that. And at the end of that little segment, and what is kind of the heart of the paper, is that we spend all that time in school and in training to take care of the patient, to give them the best care, compassion, empathy, ethical practice, safety. Nurses are patients too, and we deserve that same love and attention. And so I hope that this paper is something that gives you clarity, that the next time someone asks you, hey, why don't you go be a doctor? When are you going back to med school? You don't have to spend another minute answering that question. You just give them this paper and take all that energy and time that you were spending before answering the same questions, trying to give clarity, trying to convince people of why you deserve to be here. You can take all of that energy and use it toward your dreams, the ones you work so hard for. So I hope you find some benefit in the paper. And I hope you see that it validates your journey. You don't need it, but sometimes it helps to hear that you're not alone, that the experience that you're having is a shared experience. You're in the right place, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track, and it's a credible resource for NPs by NPs, right? So I want to thank you. A few changes. We'll do our church announcements before we head out. I'm changing the release of blogs now on the Mahogany Dermatology blog. We're going to move to Wednesdays. I might shift again, but for right now, it's going to be on Wednesdays. I want to thank DMPs of Color and Dr. Danielle McCamey, the founder, president, and CEO of DMPs of Color. We have a new magazine, the inaugural DMPs of Color magazine. So honored to be one of the authors in that, in the article, in the magazine. I have an article coming out that I talk about on the blog coming up this Wednesday. So you'll have to check that out and find out what I'm talking about in the magazine. But a huge shout out to them, and such an honor and delight. I don't think I knew, they had asked me to write that piece, and I don't remember with where they said it was going, but I didn't know about the magazine. So it's just as much a surprise to me as it is to you. And I'm just so delighted to see the growth of the organization with the leadership of Dr. McKinney and how committed and invested everyone is in the mission. And some upcoming conferences. So first of all, we have our summer mixer coming up for the D&B Dermatology and PPA group. So if you're new here, we have a lot of community for you. We have the D&B Dermatology and PPA group and Derm MPs and PAs of Atlanta, who's our sister group. These are networking groups for NPs and PAs who practice or aspire to practice in medical, surgical, and cosmetic dermatology. The D&B Dermatology group, we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary in October. Derm P's and P's of Atlanta, they're still a baby. We just founded them in September. Allie helps me with them. She's out there in Atlanta at Emory. And she'll be transitioning into her master's program. At the time that we're recording this, she's in her summer program, and she's actually doing her hours at a derm office. And then Caleb is out there in Virginia. He helps me with out in Blacksburg. Actually, he just relocated from Blacksburg, but he still supports me with the group, him and Derek. And Derek is helping me put together the mixer, which will be on Friday, June 27th at 5:30 p.m. It'll be within walking distance of the SDPA conference. If you want to join us, just hit me up through the blog and we'll allow you to RSVP. I don't know if I'm going to do anything formal for the RSVP. I might create a little thing so you can log it, so you can just sign up that way. But looking forward to that. We'll announce the actual restaurant to those who RSVP once we select it. And we're in the process of talking to our sponsor, who was really kind enough to invite, so they could sponsor either a breakfast, lunch, dinner, or coffee. And I love breakfast. So I'm thinking about asking the group if they want breakfast. But right now it's going to be dinner. So I'll keep you posted on that. And you can join us on Facebook and Instagram. And SDPA, I'll be joining them on Hill Day that Wednesday. Looking really forward to that. If you're not familiar with Hill Day, that's when, healthcare providers go and talk to legislators about different issues. Some popular issues in dermatology are just access to care. I've talked to a couple people on the Melanin Initiative podcast about vitiligo and psoriasis. Both of those ladies, Tanja Johnson, the founder of Beautifully Unblemished, and Aisha Patrick, the founder of Sisters with Psoriasis, the Psoriasis Collective. They're strong advocates, patients themselves, created a community where they couldn't find it, and now they're advocates. And they go and speak to legislators about access to care, specifically step therapy, which we're all familiar with, which is where insurance requires us to start with a certain medication before we can prescribe a more effective medication that actually works. And so for patients, that kind of trial and error, patients complain about that. They tell us all the time they feel like a guinea pig. And so we have data that shows these medications work. We just want to start with those medications. So shout out to advocates like that who do that, and to the SDPA for making this part of their conference. I'll be sharing more about what you can do when it comes to advocating for patients and for our practice. In nursing in particular, we do things like lots of areas, actually, so many, but a few that I'll mention is getting more full practice authority, right? So that we can work to the fullest of our education and training. That's one area you can do. Of course, I just talked about 2 diseases in dermatology. And then and we just talked about that case, the med spa case, right? So that's aesthetics for you. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you can do as we get closer to Hill Day. I think I'm going to try to do a live video that week with you all, kind of catch you up on what's going on with me and talk to you specifically about what you can do when it comes to policy, both when it's time for your DMP projects, which is an area that you can do for your DMP project, and your role in the community. Just because you graduate school doesn't mean you can't still do things. That is the perfect time. There's no restrictions and, having graduation requirements that limit what you can do. Now you can do anything and take your time doing it if you want. But what it means to advocate. So a lot of times if you're working with an organization, they will give you an actual script, what to say in person or online. If you're doing calls, they'll give you links where you can sign petitions, where you can leave notes. They'll give you letterhead that has messaging on it, and all you have to do is put your name on it. They make it so easy for you to participate. Again, an area you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be validated. You don't have to have a ton of certifications and degrees. You just have to be willing to help and serve. And yeah, the more you do it, the more you learn and feel more comfortable. There's a lot of opportunities to even speak with them in person, not just even on the Hill, even in your local town. They do town halls. You can have them come if you're part of an organization. You can have them come and speak to you all. When I was in MP school, we were encouraged to go to an event. I think it must have been like an election year, and by doing that, we got extra credit, which is if you are a professor or an instructor, that's something you can lend to your students. If you're a student and you want to bring that up to your professor and say, "Hey, can we get credit for doing this?" These are things. This goes both ways, right? Because everybody's just people, right? Um, so there's that. And then I'll be at Black Health Connect. I'm so excited. It's that same week. And so I'll be there with my good friend, Jasmine Cofield, the founder of the Physician Assistants of Color. We'll be hanging out there and talking strategy and things like, and congratulations to her. She just opened up her practice, a telehealth practice in Michigan. And I spend most of my time talking to founders and entrepreneurs, and she's been super helpful and kind, not only in lending her expertise for the Melon Initiative podcast, but for me personally as another entrepreneur and founder, and really delighted to be able to continue our friendship and for her to share what she's learned, her expertise and things like that. So shout out to her, and I can't wait to catch up. And if you're going to be there, let me know. They had extended like a discount code past Memorial Day, which is what it was originally for. But I think yesterday I saw that they were only going to do it one until Monday, so you have a little bit of time left. And then all week I was at AI literacy conference. It changed my life, and I cannot wait to share what I've learned from them with you. Remember, subscribe, leave a comment, and download that white paper and let me know your feedback. If you're interested in the audio version, you can email me and I will send that to you. Or you can go to Notebook LLM. I'm going to try to share more AI stuff with you to make your life easier. So there's a bunch of different AI tools. ChatGPT happens to be one of them. And sometimes there might be tools with other names, but the foundation is still ChatGPT, which gets its information from all over the internet. And sometimes it's a little bit behind in terms of resources. It gets updated every so often. But there's large language models, and I have done a foundations in AI on the blog to give you a little bit more vocabulary and background. But large language models are, instead of getting its information from all over the internet, it gets it from whatever resource you provide. So you can take this PDF and you can go to Notebook LLM. Which is a Google tool, and you can upload the PDF. And then they have a feature where you can create an audio, and that audio is really it's like a podcast. It's two people talking about whatever resource you've uploaded. So you can, oh, actually, can you guys download this paper? I don't know. I don't even check if you can download this paper yourself. Let me see. Yeah, you can. You can. And so you can upload it there. They'll create a podcast for you, and so you can listen to it. That's one way you can get the audio. You can also use the Adobe app, and they have like the little three dots in the upper right-hand corner, and you can hit read aloud, and it will read it aloud. The only thing about the Adobe app I'll say is it's not intuitive. So it literally reads everything on the paper. So if there's little dots on the table of contents, it's going to go dot, 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 dot. Now you can hit fast forward. But then if you don't have the time to sit and listen to it in one sitting, when you come back, you'll have to start over. That's the only thing about that. So that's where I really love Notebook LLM. The only caveat with that one is it leaves out some things. And so it's really kind of like a summary of the whole paper. And some of the detail, every detail that's in there, I put it in there intentionally for a reason. And so that's the only thing I'll say about that. But I love it. I learned so many tools that are available. If you're only using AI to do like email and newsletters and social media content, it's almost like having a smartphone and only using it for text messages. Like the world is amazing. And what so it was a lot of people just sharing how they're utilizing it. And because it's like, you just can't, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't learn everything yourself. And one thing I've been we'll close on this point. One thing I've been talking to a lot of people about is it's like, there's a misconception that successful people are self-made. That's likely the most it's been the most successful at keeping people from being successful, because people try to do so many things by themselves, and when it doesn't work out, then they abandon it completely, and that allows them to be part of that 90% that I talked about. 90% of people won't make it. So if you want to be part of the 10%, the sooner you can figure out that doing this by yourself is not the answer. There's a phase where we do a lot of it by ourselves, just like in our clinical practice. When you're going through orientation, there's a part of that journey where you have to prove that you can do it by yourself. But then you also have to master how to delegate, how to ask for help, how to accept help, how to set your boundaries. And it's the same thing in entrepreneurship. So I thank you for watching. I see someone's here. You didn't say anything, but I can see you. But I thank you for watching. It's been great. I'm going to close this down, hide it, set up the next one, and then we'll come back. We'll try to make that one 20 minutes, and then I'll let you go for the rest of your Saturday. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.